kids. It's a test you're supposed to give your children. And it's going to be a test to see possibly how successful they will be later in life. That's right, marshmallow test. Now, it's for younger children. Like I said, you got to be old enough where you can understand instructions well and maybe the cause and effect relationship, but not too old. So my nephew gave it to his son, who is 3 years old, just recently. And he passed, by the way. But if you haven't heard of it, the marshmallow test goes like this. You bring a child in, sit him down, and you give him a marshmallow. And you say, I'm about to walk out of this room for a minute, okay? If you like, you can eat the marshmallow. But if you wait, and you wait until I come back, then I will give you 2 marshmallows. So, okay, you got a marshmallow here, you can eat this, but if this marshmallow is still here, when I get back, I will then give you another marshmallow. So 1 marshmallow now, or you can wait and have 2 marshmallows in just a minute. So this test is supposed to see if a kid has that natural self-discipline and has the ability to delay gratification so he can wait, not satisfy the desire he wants to right now, but in order to get a greater reward later. That's the marshmallow test, right? It's supposed to be an indicator of success later in life because you can delay gratification. Now, I never did this to my kids. It wasn't around when I was raising my kids. But I think I know how they would score on this. I've got 2 kids I'm pretty certain would not eat the marshmallow. I've got 1 child that I think, yeah, he would probably eat the marshmallow. And then I have another child who would probably eat the marshmallow and then ask for the second one before I was done explaining what the test was all about. And actually the funny thing is, if you know me and my kids, you probably know exactly which one is which. I've explained all of this. So like I said, it's a test for delayed gratification, right? You put off your present good in order for a better future. It's supposed to test to see if you have self-discipline, which is a great future indicator of success. As in, if you can delay your gratification, if you can practice that discipline, then you have a greater chance of being successful later. We might even go so far as to say that this is a mark of wisdom. A child that can delay his gratification is wiser because he can kind of see more into the future. Might even call it virtuous. Right? Delay a good now for a greater good later. We even have a wise saying that goes with this. Good things come to those who wait. Exactly. Now I got a problem with this test. I got a little problem with this test, and it's not because not all of my kids would have passed. I'm not sure I would have passed at 3 either, to be honest with you. And I don't have a problem because I don't think the test is accurate. It may be perfectly accurate. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. I'm not sure. I haven't seen all the data, all the studies on this. The problem I have with this test is that the reward is all the same. It's just a matter of quantity. The reward is the exact same for one as for the other. So the foolish child, the undisciplined child, he gets 1 marshmallow. But the wise, virtuous child, he gets 2 marshmallows. But they both just get marshmallows. That's what they end up with. Just one gets 1 and the other gets 2, but they both get marshmallows. And my problem and my question is, what if there's something better than the marshmallow? What if we need to look beyond the marshmallow? Now, of course, I'm getting symbolic on you now, but I'm getting symbolic because the test itself has a lot of symbolism. The marshmallow doesn't really represent the marshmallow. The marshmallow represents what we call good in life. But it's not good necessarily as God defines it. It's good as the world defines it. Money, pleasure, fame, power. These are the kind of things that are represented by this marshmallow. So in this test, you're either getting one of these or you're waiting, delaying your gratification, and you're getting twice the amount you had before. But my question is, if we are pursuing the same things, the disciplined and the undisciplined, the wise and the foolish, the good and the evil, are we just delaying that gratification so we can just have more of the same thing later? Or are we truly pursuing something better? In this test and in this mentality we have, is the wise man truly pursuing something better in life? Something greater, something deeper, or just the exact same thing that the fool is, only twice as much? You can ask the same thing about the Christian life. Like we're told to delay our gratification in this whole world, right? So we can enjoy a greater reward later, specifically in the life to come. But if we're pursuing the exact same reward, if we're pursuing the exact same thing that the unbeliever is, just a different method, maybe in a different timing, are we any better? Is our quest any better? Or should we look instead beyond the marshmallow? Now this passage in Proverbs 3, I think puts this question in a great perspective for us. And actually the whole book of Proverbs puts this in a wonderful perspective. And as I noted before, and as you probably know, that this book, the Proverbs, is a book of wisdom. And this chapter 3 is just a wonderful summation of all that Proverbs has to offer, which is why we've been taking a few weeks to dig deeper into it. And this chapter has a lot to say not only about wisdom, it has a lot to say about the rewards of wisdom as well. And we actually find that the rewards of wisdom are not the same rewards as the rewards of folly or the rewards of foolishness. Just like the rewards of virtue, we find are not the same rewards as the rewards of unrighteousness. It's not just a matter of quantity. It's not just a matter of timing. It's a matter of kind as well. It's a completely different reward that we seek. And what we see here is that the way of wisdom and the way of virtue are one and the same. When we talk about the path of the wise man and the path of the virtuous, they're the exact same path. Right? The wise man, the wise person, the wise heart will always seek the way of goodness and the way of virtue. That's one thing that makes a person wise, is they're looking for the right way to live, not just the pleasurable way to live, not just for the profitable way to live. The wise heart wants to live right, wants to do right, wants to find that right path. We call it something different. We call it the Christian way. But it's in fact one and the same. The way of wisdom, the way of virtue, the way of righteousness, the way of Christ. They're all exactly the same path. For the way of God and the way of wisdom are the same. Now I want you to look at this passage today because it begins by warning us of walking the way of the foolish man or walking the way of the unrighteous, the way of evil. And if you look at this, if you take a second, look at it, the advice they give here about the things we shouldn't do is not any kind of like high-level saintly advice. Right? It's really just kind of basic goodness. Right? We're not talking about saint-level stuff here. He's not asking you to give the shirt off your back or your last penny or to love and pray for your enemy, the kind of things that Christ offers us. This is kind of just basic good stuff. Like it says, don't withhold good from somebody who needs it. If you've got it and they need it, just give it to them. Don't make them come back later when it's a more convenient time for you. Just give it if you have it. It says, don't plan evil against your neighbor. Right? I think that's a pretty modest expectation, isn't it? I mean, I expect my neighbor not to plan evil against me, as I expect myself not to plan evil against my neighbor. It says, do not contend with a man for no reason. Right? Don't pick and fight with someone you don't have a reason to pick a fight for. Right? Still basic stuff. Don't envy a man of violence. Right? I think almost anyone can agree. These are good ways to live. Right? Don't be a troublemaker. Don't be the one who's up there stirring the pot. Right? Avoid this kind of stuff. Again, you look at this, and this isn't making headlines. This is kind of just being a decent human being. This is everyday goodness, everyday virtue. But there are penalties if this life is not followed. If you decide not to take up the way for everyday virtues, there are penalties that God lists in here for the wicked. It starts here in verse 32. It says, "For the devious person is an abomination to the Lord." It says, the Lord's curse is on the house of the wicked. It says, towards the scorners he is scornful, and that fools get disgrace. So we want to avoid walking in this way of unrighteousness, and walk instead of the way of the wise and the virtuous. And in Proverbs 3, it also lists out a list of rewards we get. Right, there is a curse on us for not walking the way of virtue, but walking the way of wisdom and virtue, then there is a blessing that God gives us. And these are the same, these are alternate blessings we find beginning again in verse 32 of what we get when we walk in virtue and wisdom. It says the upright are in the Lord's confidence. It says that He blesses the dwelling of the righteous, that to the humble He gives favor, and that the wise will inherit honor. Now I know when we first read this, none of these seem like really incredible blessings. Right? These aren't the blessings that'll really blow us away. And they're certainly not the kind of things we think of when we think of reward. Most of us, when we think about getting a reward, we're thinking of the ones the world thinks of. We want to be adored by everybody. We want to have lots of money. We want to be respected and powerful. We want to be young and beautiful and admired. This is the stuff that we're really working hard for, right? This is what comes to our mind when we think of reward. Right? This is what we're putting a lot of our time and effort. This is why we're sweating at the gym. This is why we decide not to have that serving a dessert. This is why we're investing wisely and working that job that we can't stand, right? We're delaying our gratification so we can have that greater stuff later in the future. But it's exactly the same exact reward that the rest of the world is working for. We're just delaying ours, and we're expecting a double blessing for our discipline. And these kinds of reward are in our minds so much that even when we think of heaven, even when most of us think of going to heaven, we often think of it in terms of earthly reward. It's the same exact joys and pleasures we get here on earth, but we just get more of it in heaven. And we get to enjoy it forever. Like when we think of heaven, what do we think of? We think of streets of gold, right? There's money for everybody. Sometimes we think of having a mansion, right? That's what God promised in John 14, right? That we're all going to have a nice big house in heaven. And of course, in heaven, we're young and happy forever. We're just sitting on clouds, playing harps, eating all the marshmallows we want, and we're never getting fat. But see, this is what really distinguishes the wise man from the foolish. And this is what I want you to remember. This is what I want you to take to heart today. What really distinguishes the wise man from the foolish is not just in his patience and discipline that he can wait for more blessing. What makes the wise man is in his ability to see a true blessing. That's what makes us wise. It's not that we're just delaying our gratification, that we get the same exact blessing that the world does. We just get more of it, or we just get it for eternity. The wise heart actually seeks another blessing entirely. We're not just seeking the stuff of the earth, but we just want it to be abundant. We're seeking something better, something higher, something truer than what the world can possibly offer us. So go back to a minute and look at these things that God is offering the wise man. Go look at these blessings that God is offering the virtuous life. Take a look at them and read them and really consider what He's given you, and you realize how profound this blessing is. And the wiser you are, the more you have walked this path of wisdom, the more you're able to recognize the depth and the value of what God is giving us. And it's not even a delayed blessing. It's what He's giving us now. Like he says he will bless you. He says he will bless your dwelling. Right? And that means having a house that is blessed. And yeah, it doesn't seem near as great as a big house. But this is something much more valuable than a big house. Having a house that is blessed is a house that has a joy in it, a house that has peace in it. It's a place where you can go and heal and to be strengthened. It's got so much more value than a big house. And as my wife likes to remind me all the time, a big house, you just have to clean it anyway, right? So, is that a blessing or is it a curse? The Lord says the righteous and the wise will get the favor of God. That you will receive God's favor. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to be God's favorite. But what it does mean is He's going to treat you like one of His favorites. And what an incredible blessing that is. To know that you are one of God's favorites. I mean, imagine the confidence that you can have in life walking around knowing that you have God's favor on you. You would have confidence. I think you could take a lot of the hits that life gives you when you have that deep faith that you were favored by God. And might I even add, you could have a little bit of swagger to your life, knowing that you are one of God's favorites. God promises for the righteous and the wise that He will inherit honor. That's the benefit of having a good name, being honored and being respected. And it takes wisdom to realize how great a gift that really is. But the most interesting blessing that I found, by far the most interesting one, was the first one. It says that the righteous will be led into God's confidence, or He says the upright are in His confidence. Now, when I read that, it really piqued my interest for a minute. I'm like, oh, hold on a minute. The upright are in God's confidence? So I had to look it up. I had to do a word study. I had to find out what they were talking about. And it's really amazing what the Scripture is saying that God will give us here when it says that we will be in God's confidence. Because what it really means in that God's confidence is that it means being brought into the secret counsel of God. As in you will, like think of the way you think of a close circle of friends, the people that you trust the most. The people that you tell things to that you don't tell anybody else. Or the people that you're sure to say first before you tell anybody else. That's what He means by having this secret counsel or being in this circle of friends. And it says for the upright, God will take you into His confidence. God will bring you into this circle, this close circle of friends. The people that He trusts more than anybody else. And for the upright, for those who live right, God draws them into this circle. And I hope you can start to really understand what a great blessing, great reward it is God is offering us. He's blessing your house so it's a good place to live. He's showing you favor in your relationship. He's giving you honor. He's drawing you into a secret and intimate counsel with Himself. And I fear we just can barely scratch the surface of how great that is and the depth of what it means to be brought into the confidence of God. But this is the desire of wisdom. This is the kind of thing that a righteous heart and a wise heart will begin to desire. And it's not just a delayed reward from God, but the same thing everyone else gets, but just we have to wait longer for it. What the wise heart does is seeks a reward that's more valuable than anything the world can offer. That's the gift of wisdom. The gift of wisdom so we can have a whole new perspective on life. The reward is not just the same stuff that the world has to wait for, but it's a completely different reward that God is giving us as well. Something that's more valuable than the world could even offer. You know, when I worked in hospice, I met this man once, and this might be one of the most tragic stories I've ever heard. The guy was fairly young. He was about 55, 56 years old, something like that. And he was telling me the story of his life. about what he was doing. And he says he worked hard his whole life, and he sacrificed his whole life. And he did this so he could have an abundant retirement when he got older. He says he scrimped and he saved, he worked overtime. He didn't take vacations, they didn't get a big house. They just kept cutting back so he could have an abundant life one day when he was able to retire. And he was successful in doing that. He was able to acquire a pretty decent amount of wealth by the time he retired. But 1 month after he retired, 1 month, he was diagnosed with terminal cancer. And for 55 years, he waited and he worked. He wanted to make sure that he did everything right so he could get that second marshmallow. But there at the very end, when he was supposed to be able to enjoy it, he was struck with a disease and he only lived 2 more months after that. To work all that time, put all that effort and all that sacrifice to enjoy something, and he only got to enjoy it really for 3 months, and 2 of those was with a death sentence hanging over his head. And I can't help but wonder about the tragedy of that story. Is the tragedy so much that he didn't get to enjoy his reward that he worked for? Or that he worked his entire life for the wrong reward? Reminds me of a quote by C.S. Lewis when he said, "We are half-hearted creatures, fooling about with drink and sex and ambition when infinite joy is offered us. We are like an ignorant child who wants to go on making mud pies in a slum because he cannot imagine what is meant by the offer of a holiday by the sea. We are far too easily pleased." We think life is a choice between 1 marshmallow now or 2 marshmallows later. Well, I think we need to look beyond the marshmallow. There's something great that God wants to give you. And this is something you don't even have to wait for heaven to fully receive. He wants to bless your house in this life. He wants to give you His favor now. He wants to draw you into His confidence, into His secret counsel while we still walk this earth. Now, it's not what the world thinks of as blessing or reward. And we've got to be honest now, it's not always what we desire as reward. I mean, if you ask us on most days, we might say, I think I'll take the money and the good time. But being wise is looking beyond these things. It's looking beyond the marshmallow. Seeing what the gift of God truly is. Something more valuable than the world could ever offer us, and a blessing more valuable than all the treasures of the earth. Being wise is seeing that the path of virtue, the way of God, is a path that simply leads not only to more reward, but to a truly greater reward. And our heart is more like His, and more like the heart of the wise, when it desires the things of God over the things of the world. And in that path, in that way, we are drawn a little closer to becoming like Him. To Christ be all the glory forever and ever. Amen.